Welcome to On Texas Football. Good morning. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Jaxon Shipley, the number 3 all-time leading receiver for the Longhorns. This episode brought to you by our friends over at Advanced Pain Care. Mark Malone, same-day appointments, next-day appointments as well. We'll tell you a little bit more about them later in the show. Jaxon, good morning, buddy. Welcome into the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Bobby.
Oh, dude, I appreciate you coming on. I know a lot of Texas fans will be very happy to hear from you and some of what you have to say this morning. I know I can say, for at least for me, we really appreciate it. Last time I saw you, though, was on a golf course. And I've got to be honest, while I was losing, 11 or 12 golf balls, you were hitting darn near par for this Texas One Fund event, and you absolutely killed it. Are you good at just basically, are Shipley's, the burning question I have, are Shipley's basically good at just about every sport? Is it genetics that you guys have?
You caught me in my other halfway decent sport.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. You caught me in my other halfway decent one. There's a lot of them that I'm not great at, probably.
Yeah, I just remember me spraying a ball over into the other fairway, and you're sitting there. Oh well, if I bring it up over the thing. And Brian Boddicker, the former basketball player, and I were just laughing kind of because you were talking about, oh, well, I'm going to do this. And we're just like, give me some people just have it. And he's like, yeah, some people just have it. Long story short, thanks for joining us, though. We'll talk a little bit about you and your athletic ability as well as your time at Texas. But for folks that are also watch On Texas Football, they know your dad is part of the our team here and does the winning drive with Rod Babers on Monday and Thursdays. I want to start with a question about your family and that impact. The Shipley name is big at the University of Texas. I mentioned you're the 3rd all-time leading receiver in receptions with 218. Your brother Jordan is 1st with 248, I think, something like that. So y'all have meant a lot to the University of Texas, the Shipley name. But it goes deeper than that. Your dad's been an assistant at Texas or on staff. He's a longtime high school coach. I want to ask you about that relationship and what it's done for you. Has it been a good thing to be behind the scene, or does it put too much pressure on you? What's your takeaway on that kind of, because you're the younger son, right? That's gone after. What has that been and done and meant to you?
Yeah, I think as a young kid, it's many times what you see as possible for yourself can be cultivated by the people that are around you and people that are kind of guiding and leading you. And I was fortunate in my house to have a father who, while he did not, he never wanted to live vicariously through his kids, his boys at all. Or his girls at all in any way when it came to sports. And so, my experience with my dad as a young kid was watching him excel and be really great, in his craft and what he did coaching his high school football teams. And so as I'm growing up, I'm watching him lead teams to the state championship game, 2 years in a row. My brother's playing for him. He's breaking all the records and all that. So, as a kid, all I'm doing is just sitting there in awe and trying to be like them. I wanted to do the things that they were doing. My brother pioneered, was a pioneer for guys like me coming up, small town, wanting to do big things. It was so easy for me to look to a model that not only is he from the same town as me, same situation as me, we share the same genetics. It's. So in so many ways, it's like you're looking to your brother as like, I want to do these things. I want to be on this path also. And so, I always saw that as a very special thing, an opportunity. Greatness had been modeled for me and showed me what was possible. And so I always kind of took it that way. Like, yes, I wanted to do some of the things that Jordan did for sure. I also wanted to be me in what that looked like. But the main thing is that whatever we did in our house, whatever we chose to do, my dad cared about our attitude and our effort. That was it. The rest of the stuff, it was like if you lay it all out there, all you got, like you can walk away proud, and you don't have to measure performance per se, but little did we know, if we do those things, you'll be highly successful. If you give incredible effort and you've got a good attitude. And one of the things I learned most from my brother was just the power of your thinking and your perspective on things, and how you position yourself in your mindset, and how that can affect how you perform on the field. And so, all of those things really added up to anything that I was going to do or did do. I would credit most of that to my brother and my dad, just in showing me what's possible.
I find that very interesting, because you could take that one of two ways, right? I mean, it could be too much pressure for some. Like some guys, some younger brothers, you followed your brother to Texas, right? You had other scholarship opportunities to go elsewhere. Some people would, as a younger brother, might say, I need to go out on my own and do my own thing. But you instead tried to, you followed the path kind of laid for you. And I think that's very interesting. Is there a reason why you took that path as opposed to a different?
Yeah, there is. And the thing is that, yes, we have the same last name. We wore the same number. As a younger brother, I was far enough younger. We were 6.5 years apart. So when he graduated high school, I think I was in 5th grade. So I was the younger brother. However, before he ever even committed to Texas, I was a Longhorn fan. So
Okay.
I was telling the story the other day where it was coming down to Texas Tech or Texas. And within 1 week, we had Mike Leach in our house sitting in front of the fireplace talking to our family. And then we had Mack Brown in our house. And so I'm sitting here, 4th grade or so, just watching all this go down. But I was a big Longhorn fan because we'd moved to Burton, and it was my dad's alma mater. We're now close enough into, Longhorn territory to where all my friends at school, that's all they talk about. This was right during the mix of Major Applewhite, Chris Sims, all that stuff. So I'm just being introduced to it. And Ricky Williams had come not long before that. So I had become a big Longhorn fan as a young kid. And so, when Jordan went there, I already had it on my heart. Like if I ever get to go play, like that's where I want to go. And so I would have done that, regardless. It just happened to be an awesome situation, and I never wanted to do something just because that's what my brother did. It was more so like, this is the path that I wanted to take, and he also took that. But then at the same time, we play the same position. So there's a lot of it that's down that same path, but then there's different reasons for different things. And also, from the time I was a kid, I wanted to play, since I loved the state of Texas, I wanted to play for the flagship program in the state of Texas. And it's just, to me, it's such a statement. It's such a special thing to wear just Texas, just like your shirt. I mean, how many other programs are there in Texas, but they don't get to wear Texas and represent the state. And I just always thought that was so awesome.
Yeah. A lot of people end up in Texas for that very reason, because it is, they like you, it's singular. There's no state at the end of it, or A&M or Tech or, Southern.
That was a big thing for me. That's a big thing for me. Just growing up, I'd only lived in Texas, and I just loved the state of Texas and the people, what the state of Texas, the culture, the people stood for, that gritty, everything about that. And then the Longhorn is really the same thing. You think about a Longhorn, that's on the trail drives, the cattle drives way back when, like they were hardy, durable, gritty animals that could, make the trek. And so I just felt like it's a perfect marriage of the people of Texas.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, we're going to ask you a little bit more about your time at Texas on the field, as well as your relationships that you had off of them. But first, we want to say thank you to our sponsor, Mark Malone, and the folks over at Advanced.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
Same and next day appointments available. 512-244-4272. That's 244-4272. Folks over at Advanced Pain Care. Jaxon, I next want to. I was looking through as a kind of recon for this interview. I was looking over your stats at Texas. I mentioned the 218 all-time receptions, 3 straight years of 50-plus receptions. One of only a handful of people to ever do that at the University of Texas. But the stat that stood out to me the most is you have the highest passer rating in the history of the University of Texas. You were 4 of 4 for 73 yards. Of those 4 throws, you had 3 touchdowns. You had a QB rating of 500. That's just astronomical, right? But the question, what I wanted to mention and start with was one of my more favorite plays that you were ever part of, and really one of the better plays in the history of the University of Texas. It was your pass against A&M, 14 years ago now. It was to kind of finish up the rivalry there at that point in time, and you hit Blaine Irby on a pass that was a kind of a flanker pass. Tell us a little bit about that and what it meant to you, et cetera.
Yeah, as a freshman coming in there, I honestly didn't know what to expect. I'm a true freshman, and you hear the stories about Texas and Texas A&M, and I watched many of these games as a kid. But even so, you get there, and it's like the magnitude of that game. I felt that when we walked into the game, and I was just coming off of an injury also, so I had a big brace on my knee. I'd tore my MCL. I'd been out for a handful of weeks, so this was my first game back, and I just remember. I remember vividly they're calling out the starters for the game on their big jumbotron thing, and it's just everyone is going nuts in that stadium, and just kind of getting a little bit of chills. And like, man, this is what you play college football for right here, a game like this. And so going into it, and the way that game shook out, it just it really wasn't going our way the first half, for most of the first half, and that was a play that we've been practicing that week, and Coach Harsin was very good schematically, especially when it came to, misdirection, deception, and all that sort of thing, knowing when to call the trick play. And so one of the things that I just always thought was so special and unique, and made that play even more impactful, not just for me, but for Texas Longhorn fans that really loved the program, was to see someone like Blaine Irby that they had so much hope for, and we're so excited about coming in his freshman year, a few years earlier, and thinking like, this is the next Jermichael Finley, this is the next David Thomas, this is him. And there wasn't really any question. It was like, he's here. When he showed up and he started doing some of the things he was doing, it was like, this guy's different. And I remember that as a kid watching him. I'm in middle school or so, or early high school, watching him and thinking like, man, this guy is so special. And then he gets his injury, tears everything in his knee, basically gets drop foot. And so when I came to Texas, they really didn't even know if he was even going to play or get to play even his senior year. And I don't think anybody, including myself or anyone on the staff, even probably training staff either, really realizes how hard, what all he had to go through. He's the one that had to take that home at night and live through that span of years of just wondering what could have been. So to get the opportunity to make such an impactful play in such an impactful game, a guy that everyone loved and was so excited about, for him to make that play it just made it all the more special. I was just so happy for him.
Yeah, y'all came back, won that game. I got to ask you, you mentioned special relationships. We talked about your dad. We talked about Jordan. What about Mack Brown? You played for him his final years at Texas. What did the head coach mean to you and your family?
Yeah, Coach Brown I've never met a coach like Mack Brown ever. I think it's so easy to get lost in the X's and O's, especially when you get into college football, and it's becoming, such a big pressure. The moments are huge. There's so much pressure. It's not like high school. It's just it's not even like small Division III, Division II, even Division I AA. Like we're talking the top of the top and everything that comes along with that, the expectations and all that. And so for Coach Brown, the one thing that always stood out to me was that along with those things, which he did really well, I was always just floored at why and how he was able to care for people as people. And that's not just his players, it's anyone that was associated with the program, anyone that was up there at all. Like he knew their name. And I know that you probably have heard this. As anyone I talked to about Mack Brown that knows him, the story is always like, yeah, I met him, and then 5 years later, he called me by name when I saw him again. And he has this unique ability to remember names, and it's so special because I can't remember when someone tells me their name, I blank, and 5 minutes later I have a hard time remembering. And he's remembering.
That's me too.
Yeah,
I get it.
That's how I am. So he's doing this with people that he'll that mean nothing to most people would think this person is a nothing and a nobody to anyone, but to Mack Brown, they were special because they were a fellow human being. And so he would remember names, stuff like that, and make you feel special. And I think he really meant that. So that was my first experience with him, was him actually coming into our house there, like I said. And then, but earlier that day, actually, he had actually pulled me out of school. And so I get over the intercom, it's, hey, Jaxon Shipley, we need you to come to the front office. We have somebody here to see you. And so I walked to the front office. I'm like, heck yeah, I'm out of class.
What grade were you in when he was doing this?
I would have been in either 4th or 5th grade. I don't remember which one.
If you're getting called to the office in 4th or 5th grade, it's generally not good, Jaxon.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing about me is that I was a rule follower, so I knew I wasn't in trouble for anything. But anyway, so I go to the front office, and Mack Brown is in there with my family, and can you imagine, as a kid who's just become a Longhorn fan a couple years earlier, and now your brother's going through that process, and Mack Brown is here, and so my whole first experience with Mack Brown was just unbelievable. And then he's in our home the rest of that day, and he just made everyone feel so special. Like I remember as a kid, even after all that, it's like you felt the reverberations of that. You felt that in the school, in the town, and people just thought like, man, what a nice, awesome, genuine person. And so that's who he is. And that's who he was even as a player, to go from watching him and watching my brother being recruited by him and seeing how genuine he was, to going and playing for him. And now, post playing, like he's still the same guy. He's checking up on his players, and like, you don't have to do that, coach, but it just shows, it's just a testament to someone that really cares about people and cares about his players. And I don't know if there's another coach like that on the face of the earth, to be honest with you, that has done what he's done, made his players felt so seen, and felt so cared for as a player and as a person all together, and then you tie in the X's and O's too. And he was great at that, had great coaches all around us. The culture of the football program, it was so attractive. I remember even getting there when I was a freshman and just feeling like, wow, this is exactly what I felt when I came here as a kid with my brother. It's that same feeling of this is a family. And I always felt that. He would let me come in with my brother, and Case McCoy would come with Colt McCoy when we were in high school, like 8th, 9th grade, 10th grade. And we'd go stay with Colt and Jordan because they roomed together. We'd go stay with them for a week or two, me and Case would. And Coach Brown and Mad Dog would let us go up there, and we'd work out with all the guys in the summer, and just to get the chance to do that and not be seen as a distraction, but just like, yeah, come on, we'd love to have you up here. It was just very special.
Got to ask you, you transitioned from Mack Brown to Charlie Strong as a late in your career at Texas. That ushered in a different era. What was that like as a player? Somebody that you clearly had such a strong relationship with Mack Brown, into Charlie Strong era, who's trying to set a new example, and you are one of the team leaders, right? And so
Yeah.
you're trying to take that next step with a new coach. How tough was that on you, and not just you, but you guys as a team?
Yeah, I mean, my dad always instilled in our family and my brother and I from the time we were kids respect. So regardless of who's in charge, like it's respect always, and you're going to do whatever is asked of you, and you're going to do it to your best of your ability. So there was never a question of that, regardless of any sort of respect or allegiance that I had for Coach Brown, and any of us did. I felt like a lot of players had that for Coach Brown, just really a love and respect for Coach Brown. And he built the program in many ways from the time that, when we were kids. He built that program that we had been watching for the last, 10 years as kids. And he built it upon the backs of, so many other great coaches along the way. But in our modern era, us, the kids that had been recruited, he was what we knew.
Yep.
And so it was really tough to have someone that we felt so strongly about, that we loved, to have him out the door and now someone else come in, regardless of who it would have been. That was just tough. And so, however, there was excitement about Charlie Strong coming in, and there were a lot of things that were really great. There were some tough things for sure. I think the adjustment was, for me and a lot of us seniors, was hard in that, everything we'd done with Coach Brown is, now we're doing something completely different now with a new coaching staff, and really earning it again all over as a senior, and almost felt like coming in as a freshman again. And in some ways that was good. That was healthy. There was a lot of kind of reproving yourself again. And so I was used to having to do that from, when I was a kid to growing up to trying to prove it to myself. So proving it was not the issue. It was more so just the culture shock of, this was our culture. This is our new culture. These are our new plays. These are our new coaches. And regardless of how good or bad a coach is, that transition is hard. And so
Yeah.
I would say, how fortunate are guys and players to have 4 years of the same coaching staff. Let's just say Coach Sark. Let's just say what we got now with Coach Sark. For the past handful of years, it's been very similar, with the exception of a few position coaches leaving this year. But outside of that, you're seeing the consistency, the same thing. They get used to it, and there's a lot to be said about that, because your brain power and your mind, you don't even have to think about transitions and all these other things. I'm just deepening the groove on my understanding of what I already know, and working on physically getting, better, and my skill set getting better, and not all of the things that come along with new coaching change and developing new relationships and all that. Not that those are a bad thing by any means, but it's less time away from the X's and O's. When you have the same coaching staff, it's X's and O's. We know what we're doing. It's physically, how can I get better? And how can I understand not just the plays, but now I'm looking at the other side, the defense, and I'm focused more on what am I going against, as opposed to my plays that I have to learn that are new. And so it's always hard. Any coaching changes that you have are tough. And, with Coach Strong, I've always had a lot of respect for him. And in particular, I feel like Coach Strong was a very good person. And one of the main things I took away from him was he did all kinds of team building activities with us. So we build relationships, scholarships, guys, walk-on guys. He brought us together and made us all just brothers, all of us. We'd all eat together every night. So we would eat with a new person every time, and the stories and relationships that came from that were fantastic. And so I think in many ways you can argue that goes beyond football.
It absolutely does. And I think it's a good lesson for life, right? No matter who you are and how much you love someone or like someone, there's always going to be change, and how you deal with that change is something that we all have to handle at some point in our lives. I got to ask you, you mentioned Coach Sark. I know you're a Texas football fan to this day, because I talked to your dad about it.
Yeah, he knows I am.
So you know all about Coach Sark.
I know what's going on. I know what's going on. Jordan may not know as much what's going on but he watches. I'm really into it. I've got my boys into it, so it's fun.
Yeah, I gotta ask you. What do you think about Coach Shark? What do you see right now as a former player, and what you're seeing on the field and recruiting and that sort of thing? Kind of give us your perspective, I guess, is the best way to put it.
I think what Coach Sark has built is a miracle in today's age of football. Truthfully, when you look at, anyone can leave so easily now. When you look at how tough it's gotten to recruit, how tough the portal stuff is, NIL, everything else, how easy it is for a player to say, I'm going to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out in case it doesn't work out for me. And so I think it's a miracle to see what what Coach Sark has done in having guys that want to play for this program. Like, it is a place that is like the top of the top places that you want to be, because everybody knows Texas has the juice right now, and it all starts from the top down. And to me, Coach Sark obviously must be a genuine person, regardless of what anyone thinks on the outside. Like, you don't get that if you're not a genuine person. You don't get guys in interviews at the combine just raving about the program they just came from and their head coach unless it's real. You just don't get that. They don't have to do that. They don't have to endorse him. There's ways that you can skate around, questions that are asked about your college career. And so when I think about Coach Sark, I think of like the real deal, genuine. I think about not just as a person, many of those traits that I felt like Coach Brown had, but I think college kids and people in general, they really resonate with authenticity. And that's just what he seems to have, is he takes the battles, the bad things that have happened in his life, and he's used it as an example to push himself forward, but also as an example to his kids and his players, to let them know, like, hey, I'm a real person. I'm not a robot here. Like, this is real life stuff, and I can help you get through some tough things because I've had to go through tough things myself. And I think anyone resonates with that like level of authenticity. And then let's switch gears a little bit. Now you have the X's and O's, and like, you want to talk about innovative, he is cutting edge. And when you combine that cutting edge X's and O's, you hire the right guys, you've got the right culture, and then you're also really there for the guys and they feel like you're genuine. And not only that, but the one thing I've noticed a lot too in talking to some of these guys that have played and are playing for him is like, you hear them talk about like Coach Sark's plan. Yeah, well, like Coach Sark had a plan for the season. Here's how it's going to unfold. We do these things. We don't even question it. And the reason why we don't question it is because we know that's a recipe for success, because we've seen it. And so It's one thing for someone to say something and be like, we're going to do this, guys, and there's no track record. And it's like, okay. It's another thing when you're making it to the Final Four a couple years in a row.
It gives you credibility.
Instant credibility.
Credibility, and it allows you to ask for accountability. You know what I mean? From the player. Hey, before we let you go, you've been so gracious with your time, Jaxon. I want you to tell me a couple more times that you felt were special during your times, that you got the tingle going down the spine when you were playing at the University of Texas. What are a couple more of the times that you look back on and just like, you're like, wow, that was really cool? Give people some thoughts there.
I'll say first, my initial coming to Texas, I got there in the summer, and just getting there, honestly, like I get tingles even just thinking about like, wow, I dreamed about this from the time I was a kid. And you show up and you're at San Jack dorms, and all your other guys that have been recruited along with you, you're all looking at each other like, we're here. Like, it starts, and kind of the nerves that come along with, all right, now you get integrated into summer workouts, and it's, you start to really little by little realize like, wow, this is surreal. This is happening. And fast forward to 7-on-7 during the summer, I came in, and wasn't sure what to expect. Had a couple guys that were in front of me, and I just really committed to learning the playbook. They gave us a playbook, and it was this fat, and so I'm just I'm staying. I didn't have anything to do other than I got a guitar before I got to college, so I was like, I don't really have much going on. So I'm in classes. I'm learning the guitar and I'm learning my playbook, and that's all I'm doing all day. And my dad had told me, and some of the other guys had told me too, like, hey, if you learn this, like you'll have a leg up. This is your best shot, is to make sure that you know what you're doing. So anyways, ended up going from like third string to a week before the game, was told I was going to be starting. And so that surreal moment of like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. And the first game we played against Rice, and my very first play, I'm nervous because we're about to jump onto the scene. And my first play, I'm going to have to catch a sky high punt from somebody after the first series, the 3 and out. So I'm nervous running in the game. My brother just flew in from somewhere. He was playing ball. And it's like, okay, here we are. And that ball got skied way up in the sky. And I'm looking up and it's bright. And I remember looking down at the special teams guys running at me, the gunners, and they are just flying down the field. Felt like they were right in my face, and ended up fair catching it. And when I fair caught it, it was like, all right, here we go. And then, within a couple of plays, I think I caught a little out route and I settled in really quickly and ended up having a really good game, scoring a long touchdown on a pass from John Harris. And that to me was just a very special, like, gives me chills to think about how all that shook out. First game, like, dream come true type of deal. And I went back to my dorm that night, and it was just me in my room, and I'm sitting there. I've got my little desk in front of me, and I flip on my light. I've got my journal, and I'm like, I really saw what was possible, or what I felt like was possible. And I start writing goals that night, the night that we've played Rice after the game. Started really writing stretch goals for myself. And I feel like in a lot of ways, the way that shook out, the way that game played out, it allowed me to really set a trajectory for my career at Texas, because it showed me what was possible. And again, like I said, you set stretch goals for yourself, and you may not always achieve those stretch goals, but I feel like when you can take your mind there and you can envision yourself getting there, you'll pull yourself through some of these other small goals that you may not have set for yourself otherwise. And that's what happened with me. So that was one of the moments for sure. The second moment, I would say, we played Oklahoma State, which was my sophomore year, and ended up being a game, like probably my best statistical game. I had 3 touchdowns that game, which was fun, but it was also a down to the wire kind of game in Stillwater, a night game. And so that was really great. Another one would have been West Virginia, my junior year. We played them there in West Virginia, and Case McCoy had really started coming on, and we get down to where it's 4th and 8 and win, and we called a play, and I remember having a curl route and thinking like, all right, here we go. And another one of those moments where you just kind of look around in the crowd and you're like, how many people are watching this right now? Sometimes that happens. You kind of realize, like, it's more than just people that are on our team here and the other team, and more than just the crowd.
It sounds like it's almost an out of body experience. You know what I mean?
It is.
You're looking down on yourself as you're playing, kind of.
For sure. And it's kind of like one of those moments where you realize, oh wow, like this could be seen as so much pressure, but also it can be seen as like, what an opportunity. And so it was one of those moments where I saw this awesome opportunity in front of us, and we end up converting it on 4th down, caught the pass, and then we keep going down the field. We end up scoring, we'll win the game, and just going on the road together as a group. And we're so fired up in the locker room afterward. And my dad was coaching for UT then too. And so to get to celebrate that moment with him also, it was special. So it was, there's so many more moments for sure. My junior year, we beat Oklahoma, and we didn't have a chance to beat them. My first 2 years we got blown out. So it's really special to get at least one win for sure.
Yeah. Look, Jaxon, you've been very courteous with your time and gracious with it. Thank you so much for spending it this morning with us, and appreciate you very much. I want to say thank you to you and your dad for being part of On Texas Football. I see that Shipley Ranches hat there. Guys, they work together. They are a family, and proud of you guys for what y'all are able to do and and the people that you are as well.
Thank you.
I want to say thanks one more time also to our sponsor, that is Advanced Pain Care. They have available appointments on a same-day basis or next-day appointments as well. Make sure you reach out to them, 512-244-4272. All right, for Jaxon Shipley, I'm Bobby Burton. Jaxon, let's say goodbye with a little hook 'em here, buddy, okay?
Hook 'em, baby. Let's go to the Natty this year, boys.